Okay, so hello all. My name is Stefan, and I'm the co-founder of BlueMotion Media. I'm here with Morgan, one of our clients, and we're just going to be having a chat a bit about SolarSmart. Um, and yeah, we'll see how we get on. And yeah, thank you for hopping on.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, delighted to be here again,
Yeah,
across the camera from you.
yeah. It's a different one today with me being in front of camera. But yeah. So if you just wouldn't mind, like telling me a bit about SolarSmart. I know we already kind of touched on it in our July shoot, but it'd be great just to get a start and a finish briefly about SolarSmart, like you mentioned in the recent video.
Yeah, so SolarSmart is Ireland's only female-founded and owned domestic and light commercial solar energy company. We're 5 years old this year. We have teams in Dublin, Cork, and now in Limerick, which is new from the early months in the summer. We started planning that. And we have installed, I think, close to 1,500 installations now over the last 5 years. Actually, it would be about 4.5 because the first half a year we were in non-essential lockdown, construction lockdown with COVID. And we focus on delivering domestic solar installations that are designed to maximize the return on investment for the homeowner. We have a financing option where almost always the cost of financing is less than the amount that the homeowner will be saving on their electricity bills, which is great. And then another portion of our business focuses on light commercial, and that would be anywhere between 20 and 200 kilowatts, which is a small to medium-sized business that might have a 20,000 to 200,000 kilowatt hour usage of electricity per year. And obviously they need the roof space to do it. So we have teams in Dublin and Cork and Limerick alongside our depots that are there. And yeah, we're, I guess, probably in the top 10 solar companies in Ireland. We're the #1 rated solar installer on Trustpilot, which we're really, really proud of, because it takes a lot of work to stay in that position. The competition is constantly sort of chomping at your heels, and but you have to always deliver, to the customer's expectations. So.
Did you ever think you were gonna say that you're within the top 10 solar companies in Ireland when you first started?
Absolutely. I knew I would always be in the top 10 because my expectation of what I wanted to deliver was always pretty high. And I knew that if we were successful in attracting and retaining the right kind of talent for the business, that we would be able to deliver a level of customer service that was really very, very, very special for the industry. And the trades are an interesting industry because it's filled with, just people who aren't really necessarily thinking constantly about the customer experience. And I came from an online IT background where the customer experience was everything, or you didn't get a customer, or if you got a customer and you didn't have a great customer experience, they'd be gone to another customer. So I kind of took that attitude when I started SolarSmart, and I tried to create a culture where the customer experience is at the core of what we do. We don't do everything perfect, don't get me wrong. There's always stuff that goes wrong, but we try really hard. And when we do mess something up, we just try to really take the bull by the horns and own it, own the mess that we inevitably will make because we have humans that are doing work in other humans' homes, especially on the domestic side, not so much on the commercial side. But so I always knew that we'd be really good because I always knew that I would want to sell a premium service to the market.
And initially, when you were looking at, did you have like a plan of like, okay, this is how we're going to retain top talent, or was it just like as you go kind of thing?
So the first year, we only sold systems. We didn't install anything. We partnered with a subcontractor to do all of our installations so that we could prove to ourselves that we could sell. The second year, I hired Steven, who's my right hand in running the business, runs the whole business, um, to start hiring teams. And in the experience that I had with the subcontractor that we worked with, I knew that the guys were getting up at the crack of dawn, like ultra crack of dawn, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting into a van, driving sometimes several hours or more to get to a remote location where they then had to either get on a roof or go into an attic, spend the whole day there, and then drive all the way back, go back to a warehouse, fill up with more kit for the next day, and then do it all over again the next day. And so I could see the wear and tear. And when we started hiring our own people, I offered proactively a 4-day work week to the installation teams. And I got a lot of pushback from Steven, who was like, we can't make money doing this. And to some extent, he's right. You have to get to a certain volume to be able to fund a 4-day work week versus the competition's 5-day work week, because we had to pay the same. We couldn't pay. And now we kind of have a mix, because there's some guys that don't want, they're like, oh, I kind of want a little bit extra money on Fridays. And so now we have a couple of different tiers. Some people still work 4 days a week. Some people want to work 5 days a week. They're young. They want to save a bunch of money. Some people work 4 days a week and then 2 Fridays a month. So we have a really flexible policy that way. And I think we put health and safety at the core. I hope we put health and safety at the core of everything that we do. We always make sure we have a senior, experienced electrician on jobs, which my understanding is it's not always the case in our industry. And electricity is deadly. And I can't understand how anybody would, think that apprentices can install solar systems, and health and safety is, it's just obviously not paramount. And for us, it absolutely is. So we always have a senior person signing off on jobs, that it's part of the job, it's part of their job. They don't just pop in at the end to make sure that everything is okay, kind of thing. So it's a different approach, and it's a long-term approach, and it takes a long time for that kind of approach to pay off, but it's paying off.
It's paying off in the Trustpilot reviews.
It's paying off in people that we have. I was giving a presentation yesterday, and I showed the picture that we have of our team in front of our vans, which is from our Christmas party from 2023. And there's only one person in the picture who isn't with us still. That says a lot about the quality of the company and the culture that the company has. So, yeah.
The flexibility was really the kind of the core in terms of that retention, and also like I know buzzword of culture keeps going around on LinkedIn and stuff, but it's that's one thing I want to ask as well. Is like, how did you mold the culture into where it is now, where it's like you're retaining your team? It seems when I was doing the shoot in Killiney, just everything seemed to be working like clockwork. It was like everyone seemed to be going.
It was chaos that day,
But
but it
yeah,
was
by that,
organized chaos.
it was organized
It
chaos.
was
But it
organized
was,
chaos.
but yeah, it was. But like everyone just seemed to like everyone was sitting around in different groups and like seemed to be really friendly with each other, which is
Yeah.
on other shoots that we've been on.
If you look on our Trustpilot reviews, people comment about the camaraderie in our teams all the time. And that, of course, makes me feel really good. You know what? There's not a formula. There's not a recipe. Culture is something that comes from the ethos of the people that steer the ship, and I'm a abundance thinker. I'm not a scarcity thinker. And so whenever I try to solve a problem, I try to solve it in an abundant way instead of a scarce way. Stephen's a little bit different. So we were having a discussion a little while ago about a bonus program that I want to roll out for the installation teams in October to incentivize them to finish a job and not have a call back. And I mean, we do an amazing job, but we still have a lot of jobs that we have to go back and finish something the next day or 2 days later or 5 days later, and those it's not a negative customer experience unless the customer has to take more time off, but usually it's not a, it's not a really negative customer experience, but it's not magical either. And to get the magic is to finish a job in one day and not have to go back, and not have the customer to have to think about us needing to go back, not have the salesperson worry that we have to go back and that they can't go and collect the money and kind of get their commission. And so there's all these implications if we have to actually go back, even though it's not a necessarily out of pocket costly expense. It just, there's built-in costs all along the way, and including potentially the referral, the customer referral at the other end of it, right? So if we can nail the customer experience so that we are in and out in one day on a residential that should be done in one day. I'm not saying every job is one day long, but where we know it is. And so I want to incentivize them by, putting a bonus program together. And he was like, oh, well, we could do it a different way. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's a cost to the company. It isn't physical cost for us. We have somebody 2 or 3 days a week that has to go out and tidy up a few things that we didn't finish the week before, and on all the, and in every geography, right? So that's a physical cost to us. And I'd rather bundle up, understand what that cost is, package it up in some way, and say to the teams, okay, if we can avoid this cost, you guys can have that money for yourselves as a bonus. So we've been trying to structure a bonus that will take that behavior. But so I'm thinking of it as, how can we pass more on to the teams? How can we incentivize them? How can we give them more? How can we, help them more? How can they have a little piggy bank for a better, better holiday or whatever, to help me solve a very normal human kind of, little things get passed over at the end of the day. It's, again, human nature.
It's quite innovative. Have you seen any other solar company doing that, or?
I think that one of the larger competitors has like a inspector that goes around and kind of ticks some boxes, and teams get bonuses if they do a good job. And we have to. When I heard that, I was like, you know what, that would solve a huge problem for us. And I was all over it. And like I said, some people are just different thinking. So Stephen was like, oh, well, we could solve that a different way. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to take, it's a legitimate cost, and we can turn that money into an investment.
Same with the referral program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you rolled that out. You mentioned before we started recording, it was 2023 November, right?
Well,
24.
2024, what is 2025? So in the spring of 2024, our kind of normal marketing channels started to really falter because the competition was so fierce that it started costing us a ton of money to generate leads in the way that we had been doing it since the beginning of our business. And we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how we were going to find customers without it costing us an arm and a leg, and without having the other. So part of it was cost driven, but part of it was also driven by not wanting to have the salesperson not walk into a kitchen and have 12 quotes on the table that they know that they're competing with, because we're never going to be the cheapest. We can't be the best and the cheapest, and there's got to be a little bit of give and take. So we found ourselves in a very, very, very competitive market because of the way that we were generating leads. And it took us longer to realize that than I would have liked. And when I say it took us, I should have said it took me, because I consider that to be my job, is recognizing when demand needs to be turned up. And I missed the boat. But anyway, we came around towards the end of the summer, and we stopped spending any money at all on sort of the conventional stuff that we had been spending money on. And we said, okay, we have to teach our salespeople how to ring our customer base of find the referrals, find the people that they know that are going to be in the market for solar systems and incentivize them. And again, take that bucket of money that we were spending on AdWords and instead give it to our customers or our customers' customers for helping us find more people that want to go solar. And it took a long time to get people convinced that that was something, but now we're quite proactive. You know, when a referral, when somebody who's come in through a referral buys a system from us, we call the person who referred them and say, that person's bought. Well, you know, as soon as the system is installed, we'll be on to you to send you your 250 referral fee. And the proactivity of all of that results in even more referrals. You know, everybody else is, I'm sure all the other competitors going, oh yeah, we offer a referral program, but we never ever pick up the phone and call the customer and tell them the money's on the way. We wait for the customer to call us and tell us and say, where is my money? Well, I don't, if I'm in a position, if I'm in a position where the customer has to call me to ask me for their referral fee, I haven't done my job right. I should be calling the customer. I got a gift for you. And then I get another gift back. So it's paid off in spades. I think some really high number, 76% or something of our domestic installation business comes from referral.
And they're really warm conversations as well. It's not just like, you know, one of your USPs I would definitely say is compared to others would be the not badgering the leads that come in. Like it's just like kind of you have that warm conversation and it's, you know, some like follow-ups, but then, you know, if they don't want it, they don't want it. If they do, they do. But
We've just brought in 2 salespeople from another organization, and their sales method is to they have a very specific system that they sell. So X number of panels with or without a battery, no hot water diverter, no EV chargers, no other bells and whistles, like period. Very, very finite. So they have their installation costs down to probably a science, you know, and they probably don't have a lot of nuance to roofing or all kinds of things. But anyway, the salespeople go to the person's home. They offer them this out of the box system for X amount, and if they sign on the dotted line on the day, they get it for like 3,000 euros less or something like that. And they get a lot of business that they close on the day, but like 40% of the orders exercise the 14-day refund clause. So 40% of the business that the sales force closes doesn't actually go forward. We don't have any customers that don't go forward because we're trying to just get people to realize that solar puts money in your pocket if you put it on your roof and you're doing something really, really good for the environment. And you also become like a lot, you just sort of, I'm going through this because we all know I just put a solar system on my own roof. I showed Owen, my husband, the electricity bill that we got last week because it had the first, I think it was from the 26th of June. I think it cut off on the 1st of August, and we had spilled 106 euro and 25 cents worth of electricity to the grid in the 5 weeks since we had our solar system installed. And you know, we still ran the dryer, ran the dishwasher during the day, you know, it's, and so we're just trying to educate our prospects on how to make the right decision for their own consumption and home and not, you know, God, I can't imagine somebody going to bed and being angry at SolarSmart because we sold you what you didn't need, or we twisted your arm and, you know, it wouldn't be, sorry, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a way that I could go to bed at night. Wouldn't work.
and you know, with you mentioned, you know, the quality of the solar panels that you guys have in stock. Where do you see technology in terms of SIG energy maybe being? I don't know if they're the drivers, but where do you see solar technology in the next 2 or 5 years?
Um, so 2 different things, panels and SIG is the inverter and battery, but panels are very much a commodity, although there's still a lot of innovation in terms of performance coming. Panels are getting more efficient, and by efficient, we mean that more electricity is produced in 1 meter squared. So that's how they measure kind of panel to panel, because sometimes panels are different sizes. So to compare one panel to the other panel, you do it by a meter square, and they are getting more powerful. And that will, I think, will continue. That trend will continue in the same way. So when I first got into this business, I think we were sort of selling 350, 380 watt panels, and now it's 450. So it's gotten about 70 watts better in 5 years, something like that. So I think that trend will continue. Where I think the real opportunity is, and where the market will definitely move to, is where inverters will become a lot more intelligent than they are even now. Like SIG is very, very intelligent compared to the inverters that were on the market 3, 5 years ago. In that, they talk to the internet and see what the weather pattern is going to do, and fill the battery up without you knowing about it before a storm comes, in case the lights go out. And it's just, they've gotten a lot more sophisticated in terms of this sort of holistic home energy management. But I think where the industry will go is that they'll become a lot more sophisticated in terms of communities being able, so communities, housing estates, clubs, whatever, becoming a lot more sophisticated in terms of sharing energy management amongst themselves, and sharing excess electricity in a kind of a partnership, kind of a community arrangement. And that technology is definitely coming. You can already start to see it if you just do any kind of search, ChatGPT or whatever, search on virtual power plant. And I think the inverters that control how you consume energy, and how your home consume energy, and how your appliances all consume energy, will all be controlled by a much more intelligent kind of like brain. And the inverter will be at the very core of that, because it'll be watching what you can make. We've seen some technology over the last couple of years, which is on the top of every single roof, there's a ridge, that's kind of like a round kind of cap on top of all the tiles that are at the top of and so we've seen a ridge blade, a little wind turbine inside a ridge cap that could come into play in the next 5 to 10 years, to combine solar with wind, which would be a great protector, if you will, for storms and things like that, particularly for homes in Ireland, but other, obviously, places all over the world. So I think homes will become, really, really, really energy self-sufficient.
So that kind of mini wind turbine, do you generally see that coming into play, or is it kind of in the early stages of development?
It's really in the early stages of development, but I've seen some of them for farms they're really starting to take hold. So they're much bigger, and they're at the top of a whole big huge shed. And they're kind of like a big turbine that the wind just goes through. It's kind of cool. And it can feed right into the same inverter that the solar system that's on the shed can feed into. So it's I think we'll start to, but the cost of all these things is just plummeting. So it's becoming a lot more feasible and a lot more prevalent.
And you said you opened up your new warehouse in Limerick.
Well, warehouse is a very generous word.
Generous.
It's a depot.
It's a depot, but
But we've got a team there, which is the main thing. So when you have a team, you've got to have a place for them to go fill up their vans with stuff, right? And it can't be, it's part of that culture. It can't be that far. So we now have a team in Limerick, and they have access to a depot that has a bunch of stock, and we just have to fill up that depot once a week with whatever we know that they need the following week. So it's not terribly sophisticated, but we now have people on the ground. And what that means is that we can actually get to Galway a whole lot easier. So it kind of opens up the sort of Athlone Galway corridor a lot more. We have some clients up in Galway, installations that we've done, but we haven't actively marketed there. And now we can open up that whole Clare, Galway kind of area, and then hopefully we'll push up into Mayo and Sligo soon.
what was it like getting that team for Limerick? Was it to take a lot of effort, or was it, you know,
Um, you know what? Attracting good talent always takes effort. They happen to have come along at exactly the right time, and from a competitor, they were looking for a change. We happened to be looking for them, and it's worked out great. But that doesn't always happen. Like in that same exact time frame, we've brought in other teams that are no longer with us because they just didn't work out. So, but yeah, no, we've wanted to enter into that whole Limerick area for a good long while. We've got a huge customer installed base there already from servicing both out of Macroom and out of Dublin down towards, Bird Hill and Neenah in that area. And so now having a team in that area just allows us. And we have a salesperson now in Limerick as well.
What was the milestone? I remember you shared it with me, but I forget. It was the milestone within 5 years. How many panels was it, or how many residential?
5,000 a
5,000,
year. Yeah.
and that'll just like that'll help it. That's another milestone within that depot coming
Oh,
into play, and then
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Hopefully we're in a position now where we should be able in 2026 to deliver 1,000 installations in that year. I think that's going to be really achievable for us next year. We're on that run rate now, which is great.
um, so yeah, that milestone would feed into the kind of the million solar rooftops by 2030.
Barely.
Yeah, well, as in
I mean, think about it. As a whole, as a company that's one of the larger and more respected players in the market, we can deliver 1,000, and the country needs to deliver 900,000.
more rooftops, more panels are needed on rooftops. That's for sure.
That's why I don't laugh at competition. I mean, I don't laugh. I don't worry about competition because there's so much business. There's plenty of business for every single type of player in the market. There's business for the premium provider, there's business for the medium size provider, there's business for the mom and pop providers. It's like crazy, but great.
And transparency seems to be big into SolarSmart, and you were one of the first to put the prices on your website.
Right.
Yeah. Why was that important to you to put the prices on the website?
Oh, we did a show in Limerick last week, a trade show, and feet on the ground. We meet a lot of people, and particularly outside of Dublin, people love to chat to people before they buy from them. So shows really work well. But we were in the very back of a marquee, and it was empty other than kind of around the walls, and we were at the very end. And when you walked in the marquee, you could see the SolarSmart kind of backdrop, which is 3 meters wide. It's big and red, and everything else is kind of black and white. And there we are. And we thought, okay, I said, no one is going to approach us unless they actually want to talk to us. So while we might not get the footfall of everybody who's out on the path out there, the people who do come to talk to us are going to come to talk to us because they're genuinely interested. They're just not going to be kicking tires and feeling guilty about walking by an empty booth. It's exactly the same. On the website, if you press the get a quote button and you have no idea how much money we're going to be asking you to spend, you're going to possibly be wasting our time and your time. And so I wanted people to self-select out of contacting us if they weren't financially able to make that kind of a commitment. And we were just a few people that initially started. And in 2020, there weren't that many solar companies, and we were one of the only companies that were generating leads online. So we were literally getting bombarded, and we couldn't really afford to not be dealing with people who knew how much money the whole process kind of involved and who weren't kind of leading edge or bleeding edge, perhaps even technologists at the time. And so it was a strategy to keep the sales, the leads highly qualified from a budgetary perspective. And that led to everybody having to also share their prices, which is great.
Yeah, but what would you say to some people who'd say, who would like kind of argue against it, where they'd say you're not y- to get the quote in, then you can provide the information, rather than you obviously were confident enough with the website and saying there's all the resources there on the website. Why not show the prices? Was that kind of the stance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the people who genuinely wanted a quote knew what they were asking for a quote for. I just think that that's part of, I'm a New Yorker, or at least I used to be before I moved to Ireland. But I first went to college, and I first came out of school and went into business in Manhattan, and nobody wastes your time in Manhattan. It took me like 4 years to find out that "leave it with me" actually meant "no" in Irish.
Yeah, yeah.
When somebody says "leave it with me," they're not buying.
Um, so over just on the school side, I think it was one of your latest LinkedIn posts. You mentioned that you completed a series of school installations. So what can you just walk me through the process and what it looks like for the program?
Yeah, the Irish government did something really clever. I don't know whether it was the government or the Board of Education, but they offered every school a 6 kilowatt system with a TV monitor to project the results of the inverter, what the solar system is producing, and how much is flowing to the grid, and all that kind of thing. And they free of charge to every school. Um, and it kicked off, I think, in the winter of 2024, and we did a couple of schools last year in the first round. I think there were only 14 counties in the first round. And then this year we got all over it in January. And I think the program closed around the end of May. And I think we probably got close to 40 schools, I think, across the country. About half of them in Cork and half of them in and around Dublin. And we're finishing most of them actually this week. And maybe I think we have 1 or 2 left because school's now back in. But we've spent a good portion of the summer putting these 14-panel string inverter, not a massive expense for the Irish government, I think, but every school is going to get the same amount of production that's coming, against their electricity bill, but more importantly, the educational impact for all the kids seeing the 32-inch or 36-inch monitor with the how much the school is saving and how much energy the school is making with their solar panels, and the impact that then has as they go home and talk about the solar system at the dinner table. And I think that's it's a stroke of genius on behalf of the Department of Education and the Irish government towards this million rooftops by 2030 kind of a philosophy. It's all part of a really interesting program. And so we're delighted to be part of it. And now in a number of the schools, they're coming around and looking at a second larger system that their boards are endorsing because they can actually also see the savings from the 6 kilowatt system that they have.
And it's not a huge lot for a school, like 6 kilowatts. So it's great that it's kind of like a tester, and then they can go for a larger system.
Yeah, I mean, it's way more impactful for a tiny primary school because they just get more bang for their buck, so to speak, because they're getting the exact same size as, say, Trinity Comprehensive that has 1,000 kids or whatever it's got in it over in. But by the same token, the savings is going to be a certain amount. It's going to be the same probably for both of those schools. The small school probably won't upgrade, but the bigger school will go, you know what, we've got to go to our board or our parent or PTA or whatever and say, you know what, we need. And then they can fall back on the non-domestic microgeneration grant for the rest of the larger system that they may want to install. So there's still more money that the school can avail of from the government to put on a larger system if it's a larger school, and we have schools that are following in that path now. So it's a way of educating the schools, the parents, the kids. It's fabulous. I think it was just a stroke of genius on behalf of the Irish government.
And if you could give like some words of advice for for schools on the fence about it, what would you say?
I don't know that there are that many left. I think a lot of schools took up the program. I'd be surprised if there were that many left, but what I would encourage the schools to do is to get, like, we went in and we asked the principals if, the bidding was very competitive, put it that way. These were all pretty much lost leaders for us. And what I said to the sales team is, look, go talk to the principal and say, can we have a night where we talk to the parents after the system's been in 6-9 months and we have some data on how much money the school has saved? Can we come in and do a dog and pony act for the PTA and all the parents and have a wine and cheese evening or something And the school, I think in some schools we even said that we would give 250 euros to back to the school for every installation that the parents purchased as a way of raising some money for sports or some things like that. So it's kind of like the circular economy, except for this is sort of like a circular solar financial economy where we're trying to just incentivize as many people as possible to get on board with
And that kind of evening is similar to what you've done in the domestic world as well, where you'd like from the neighborhood. What was
yeah,
it called again?
our solar socials.
Solar
Yeah.
socials. Yeah.
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 And those are starting to take off at like GAA clubs now and tennis clubs. We have a yacht club, and they're all getting onto the come in and have a solar social and see how much money the club has saved by putting up a solar system. And if you buy a solar system, the club's going to get 250 euros back from SolarSmart, and we're going to be able to, buy a new basketball court or whatever. And it's we're giving back, and we're getting more customers. It's like, and that's all part of that same referral commitment. When I said we made that pivot to referral marketing, that's all part of it. All this, every attempt to find customers in places where our competition aren't finding the customers, that's all what I'm referring to as our kind of pivot to reaching into the community and finding business instead of going online and trying to find people that are in the market for solar and competing with everybody else who's getting their leads that way.
So in person rather than online.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks a million for the podcast / interview. And yeah, look forward to doing more business.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks,
Right.
That's it. All right.